The courtroom lights hummed quietly, bouncing off the polished wood panels that had seen decades of truth, lies, and justice. Judge Judy sat in her chair like a storm waiting for a spark, calm, collected, but one wrong word away from thunder. And then the door opened. Karen walked in first. Blonde hair pulled tight into a bun that seemed to hold her entire ego in place, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Her husband trailed behind her, head held high, carrying a folder that looked thicker than the truth he was about to twist. From the very first moment, it wasn't hard to tell this wasn't just a case about money, it was about pride, about two people who couldn't admit they were wrong. The case title read, Karen and David Walters vs. Marissa Cole. A landlord-tenant dispute on paper. But anyone who had been watching Judge Judy long enough could smell when something deeper was buried beneath unpaid rent and property damage. The cameras zoomed in as Karen sat down, folding her hands dramatically on the table. Her husband whispered something in her ear. She smirked. It was the kind of smirk that said, "We've got this." But they didn't. "Good afternoon," Judge Judy began, glancing over the paperwork. "So we have a claim for $3,200 in unpaid rent and property damage to an apartment. Plaintiff, that's you, Mrs. Walters." "Yes, Your Honor," Karen replied sweetly, voice dripping with rehearsed charm. "We rented out our property to Miss Cole and she completely destroyed it. Holes in the walls, broken tiles, unpaid utilities. She just disappeared owing us money." Marissa, sitting at the defendant's table, didn't look like the monster Karen was painting her to be. She looked tired, nervous, the kind of nervous that doesn't come from guilt but from being misunderstood. Judge Judy's eyes flicked to her. "Miss Cole, what do you have to say about this?" "Your Honor," Marissa began softly, "I didn't destroy anything. I left the apartment in the same condition it was rented in. The only reason I moved out early was because she pointed subtly toward Karen and her husband, wouldn't fix the heat for 3 months during winter." Karen scoffed loud enough to echo, "Oh please, that's a lie, the heater worked perfectly fine." Judge Judy raised a brow. "Mrs. Walters, I didn't ask for commentary, I'll get to you." The smirk faded, a flicker of irritation passed over Karen's face. Her husband placed a calming hand on hers, but it was the kind of calm down that comes from fear, not love. As the case unfolded, it became clear the Walters weren't here for justice, they were here for a show. Karen had brought glossy photos of the apartment printed on premium paper, no less, each one showing suspiciously exaggerated damage. A cracked tile zoomed in to look like an earthquake, a nail hole photographed like a crater. When Judge Judy leaned closer, she asked, "When were these photos taken?" Karen hesitated, right after she moved out. Her husband chimed in, "Actually, Your Honor, some of them were from before she moved in just to show how it looked." Judy froze. "Excuse me." Karen's eyes widened. "He means, just for comparison." But it was too late. That one slip had opened the door to everything they were hiding. You could almost hear the audience hold their breath. The camera cut between Judy's raised eyebrow and the couple's nervous glances. "Mr. Walters," Judy said slowly, "are you telling me that some of the photos you presented as evidence of damage were taken before the defendant even moved in?" David shifted in his seat. "Not exactly. We just wanted to make it clear how much work we put into the apartment before renting it out." "That's not what I asked," Judy snapped. "Did you or did you not mix old photos with new ones to make it look worse?" Karen leaned forward desperate. "Your Honor, we're just trying to show." "Ma'am," Judy interrupted sharply, "this is not Instagram. I don't need filters and photo edits, I need facts." The courtroom chuckled. Karen's face turned red. Her husband sank a little lower in his chair. The defendant's turn came. Marissa opened a small folder, thin but powerful. Inside were screenshots of text messages and repair requests she had sent over months. "The heater still isn't working. You promised to fix the window leak last week. The bathroom ceiling is dripping again, please send someone." Each message was time-stamped, calm, polite, desperate, and every reply came from Karen. "Stop complaining. We'll get to it when we can. You sign the lease as is." The room shifted. Karen's confidence began to leak out like air from a punctured tire. Judge Judy didn't say much, she didn't have to. The silence was enough to let everyone see what was happening. Finally, she turned to Corinne's husband. Mr. Walters, you said earlier that you maintained the property well. When was the last time you had the heater serviced? He hesitated. I'm not sure, maybe 2 years ago. Marissa shook her head. It's been 4. Judge Judy looked down at the file. She's right, I have the maintenance report here from 2019, that's more than 4 years ago. Corinne tried to interject again, but Judy's tone cut like glass. Mrs. Walters, one more word out of turn and I'll hold you in contempt. From that moment the energy shifted completely. The confident couple that had walked in like a royal parade now sat shrinking in their seats. But what really set the downfall in motion wasn't the photos or the maintenance report, it was the moment David, the husband, tried to defend his wife one last time. Because in that moment he said something that not only exposed their lie, it made everything worse. Judy asked, so you're saying the tenant left early without paying because she couldn't handle the cold? David shook his head. No, Your Honor, she left because she thought she could get away without paying like she always does. Corinne told me about her, she's one of those people who just moves from place to place making excuses. Marissa's jaw dropped. That's not true, I've only lived in 2 places my entire life. Judge Judy frowned. How would you know that, Mr. Walters? David blinked. Because Corinne showed me her social media. She posted about living somewhere else before this, we saw it. Do you have proof? Well, no, but... Then don't make accusations you can't prove, Judy interrupted coldly. That's called defamation. The audience gasped quietly. Corinne glared at her husband, whispering through gritted teeth, stop talking. But it was too late, Judy wasn't done. Mr. Walters, let me ask you another question, she continued. Did you personally witness the condition of the apartment before she moved out? He hesitated. No, my wife did. So your testimony is based on what your wife told you? Yes, ma'am. And your wife's testimony, Judy paused, tapping her pen against the desk, is based on photos that may or may not be accurate. The silence that followed could have swallowed the room. Judy leaned back. Do you know what that's called, Mr. Walters? Hearsay. You're building a case on hearsay and manipulation. Corinne tried to interrupt again, but Judy raised a hand. No, ma'am, you had your turn, now you can listen while I dismantle this fairy tale you brought into my courtroom. For the next several minutes, Judy walked them through every inconsistency. The dates that didn't match. The receipts that looked freshly printed. The photos that had digital timestamps months apart. It wasn't a case anymore, it was an unmasking. Every line Corinne's husband had used to defend her became another thread unraveling their lie. He had come in to protect her, but each time he spoke, the truth screamed louder. The once confident couple looked smaller than ever, their faces red, their folders useless, their story falling apart under the weight of truth. Judge Judy finally leaned forward and said quietly, you two might want to stop while you're behind, because if I dig any deeper, this might turn into more than a civil dispute. Perfect, okay, hand, let's continue your 10,000-word narrated realism story. Corinne's husband tried to defend her, what he said made it worse. Below is part 2, approximately 50 words written in your LifeLens story's voice. Calm, suspenseful narration that plays like a viral courtroom documentary with a poetic karma ending and SEO-rich rhythm. Movie camera part 2, when words turn into a verdict. The courtroom had gone still, so still that you could hear the faint buzz of the ceiling lights above Judge Judy's bench. Corinne's once perfect posture had collapsed into uneasy slouching. Her husband David kept rubbing his thumb against his wedding ring, a silent metronome of regret. Judge Judy's eyes stayed fixed on the papers before her, then with the smallest sigh she looked up. Mr. and Mrs. Walters, she said, I've handled thousands of cases. I can tell when people come here seeking justice and when they come seeking validation. You two fall in the second group. David tried a shaky laugh. Your Honor, that's not. Stop, Judy cut in, voice sharp as a gavel strike. Every time you speak, you dig the hole deeper. The cameras caught it, Corinne shooting him a look that could have burned through glass. Marissa sat quietly, clutching her folder as if it were a lifeline. For For the first time that day, the balance of power had shifted completely in her favor, though she didn't gloat. She just exhaled, softly, like someone who'd been holding her breath for months. Judge Judy turned to her. "Miss Cole, I've reviewed your text messages, photos, and the maintenance reports. They tell a consistent story. You reported legitimate issues that the landlords ignored. You paid your rent on time for the months you lived there, and you left because the property was uninhabitable during winter. Correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Marissa answered, her voice trembling with relief. Karen couldn't hold back. "That's not true. She left in the middle of the night. Mrs. Walters," Judy warned, "if you interrupt again, I'll have you removed." The words hung in the air like a final warning. Karen leaned back, fuming silently. David whispered, "Let it go," but his whisper came too late. Judy had heard it. "Mr. Walters," she said, eyes narrowing, "do you often instruct your wife on how to behave while testifying?" "No, ma'am, You just did." The audience chuckled again. The camera zoomed in on Karen's expression, a blend of fury and humiliation. "Let me save you both some time," Judy continued. "I've cross-checked your evidence. The receipts are dated 2 months after the defendant moved out, meaning the so-called repairs you're charging her for were improvements you made for your next tenant." David's jaw tightened. "That's standard practice, isn't it? Landlords fix things." "Landlords fix damage they caused or neglected, not problems they blamed on others. You filed this claim for $200, but from what I see, the only people owed anything are the ones who had to live in your freezing apartment." Karen's eyes flashed. "You can't talk to us like that." The courtroom gasped. Judge Judy stood up slowly. "Excuse me." For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then Judy spoke, quiet but deadly. "In this courtroom, Mrs. Walters, you speak when spoken to, not when your pride is hurt." The silence that followed was absolute. A minute later, Judy signaled the bailiff, "Bring me the signed lease agreement." She flipped through the pages. Clause 14, landlord must maintain heating system in working condition during all months of occupancy. "Did you read your own lease, Mrs. Walters?" Karen stammered, I didn't write that part, the agent did." "Then you're bound by it." Judge Judy placed the papers down. "Here, what's going to happen. The plaintiff's claim for $200 is dismissed. On the counterclaim filed by the defendant for uninhabitable living conditions, I find in favor of Miss Cole in the amount of $1,500. Karen's mouth fell open. "What, you're ordering us to pay her?" "Yes," Judy said flatly. "Consider it the cost of learning honesty." But the scene didn't end there, because David, desperate to salvage his dignity, made one last mistake. As the bailiff handed him the judgment copy, he muttered under his breath, loud enough for microphones to catch, "This is ridiculous, we should have lied better." The courtroom froze. Judge Judy's head snapped up. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" David tried to backtrack. I was joking." She shook her head. "No, you were." Then came the moment that would make the clip go viral across every social feed. Judy leaned forward and said, "Mr. Walters, you just admitted on camera that lying was your strategy. You didn't come here seeking justice, you came seeking revenge, and now you'll leave with the exact opposite." Karen whispered David stopped talking, but it was useless. Judge Judy gestured to the clerk, "Mark that statement for the record." The gavel hit the desk like a thunderclap. Case dismissed with prejudice. Karen shot up from her chair. "You can't just." "Sit down," Judy ordered, her tone sharp enough to slice through pride. Karen froze, then slowly sat, eyes wet with fury she didn't know how to hide. The cameras lingered on her trembling hands gripping the table edge. Every viewer watching later would feel it, the weight of arrogance collapsing in real time. Outside the courtroom, the couple walked briskly past reporters. "Mrs. Walters, do you have a comment?" one shouted. She didn't reply, she just kept walking, heels clicking faster, face burning. David trailed behind, saying nothing for once. Later, in the parking lot, witnesses would recall hearing them argue beside a silver sedan. "You had to open your mouth," Karen hissed. "You told me to defend you." "Not like that, now everyone thinks we're liars." Then came the line that sealed their fate in the minds of millions. "Well," David said bitterly, "maybe if you hadn't made me fake those photos." Several bystanders heard it, one of them had their phone recording. By nightfall, the clip hit social media. Karen's husband admits fake evidence after Judge Judy verdict. Within hours, it exploded. The viral version ran 45 seconds long. Subtitles, dramatic music, and that perfect caption. She wanted validation, he gave her confession. It racked up millions of views, thousands of comments. Some laughed, others saw themselves in the warning. Don't bring lies into Judge Judy's courtroom. That moment when karma speaks louder than defense. Weeks later, Marissa received her payment. She donated half to a local housing charity. When a friend asked why, she smiled. Because I got my warmth back, she said, not from the heater, from justice. Karen and David, meanwhile, quietly sold their rental property. Neighbors said the for sale sign went up the same week the video hit trending. Online, the world moved on, but that courtroom clip stayed floating in recommendation feeds, always resurfacing whenever arrogance met reality.